This is TWiT.
50 years ago,
Yeah.
we had the Apollo-Soyuz flight, or as they called it in Russia, the Soyuz Apollo flight.
That's right.
Which was the final use of Apollo hardware. Now, for those of us, I'm noticing in the press and social media sites a fair amount of misty-eyed looking back at, it was the final flight, and that was so cool and all that. At the time, I think the public, it was a little bit of a yawner. We had been on these incredible missions of exploration to the moon. We had had 3 crews up at Skylab, which was rescued from near disaster because of a launch that broke some things. And then came Apollo-Soyuz, which was cool primarily, at least from the public view, because it was détente in space. It was the Americans and the Soviet Union docking 2 spacecraft, shaking hands, sharing some borscht and some jokes, and then going their separate ways. But it was kind of it felt, just personally, it felt a little bit like kind of a sad ending to this amazing program. But it's been, what?
Well,
60th, 50th anniversary, right?
50 years later, we've got an International Space Station where we flew one of the most international missions I've ever seen just like a week ago. You've got Russians and Americans in space overseeing a station that also has, I think it had, we had India's Space Agency's first astronaut, Poland, Bulgaria, Hungary, and then there's more all up there. So I think that the legacy is far-reaching. Given where we are now, I know there's a lot of stuff with Russia and Ukraine and stuff that's throwing a lot of a lot of waves in that international cooperation. Hopefully, we'll get through all of that, and that conflict will end, and then they can resume. Or maybe there's another partner that's going to rise up and be even more cooperative and more, what's the word? What's it when you're good? Beneficent? Beneficent? Yeah, more good.
Munificent. Well, it would be great if we could work with China, because I think, honestly, they wouldn't say so, but I think China would turn off their relationship with Russia in terms of space in a hot minute if we could find a way to work together cooperatively, because really there isn't a lot left going on in Russia. They've got some old hardware, they've got some capability, but they've had huge brain drain through retirement and other things. Their budget at this point is tiny, and their spacecraft break. So
yeah, you mentioned Skylab, by the way, and we just passed the 40th anniversary of the Skylab fall from space into Australia. So,
all right,
let's hope we don't do that with the ISS.
Well, speaking of falling from space, Starliner got a brief moment back in the news.
That's right.
I guess we finally got an announcement after many months of silence. This is Boeing's.
It's been since March. Can you believe it that they said anything like publicly
Boeing's,
at all?
Competition for SpaceX to deliver astronauts to the space station. And the headline I picked was Starliner in or out of the doghouse, nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. Where do we stand with this darn thing?
Well, that was the question. Back in March, NASA and Boeing put out a statement that said that they were looking firmly into early 2026, no longer looking at the end of 2025 for the Starliner 1 mission, the next Starliner mission. And they were trying to decide if they get all of the testing done that was slated for this summer, and then if they would put people on it or not. We actually reached out to them like a week or two ago, Boeing and NASA, and they're like, hey, no, like what we said in March, that's what we said, and so
that's the latest news.
That's what they told our writer Josh Dinner, who, by the way, wrote this great story, because during the Crew 11 upfronts for the Crew 11 mission, which is launching by SpaceX at the end of this month, as we're recording it, July 31st is the launch date there. They did give an update on their plans for Boeing, and they did confirm that not only is Starliner launching in 2026, that that next launch will also not have astronauts on board. So they're stepping back and they're doing another like cargo kind of / test flight for this version for whatever fixtures that they're going to be making. And so it's a pretty definitive like a stake in the ground now that is when the next mission is going to do. Now the testing is going to be set for the summer to test like the doghouse stuff that they were tracking for the thruster issues, to see if they can manage the temperatures there so that they don't pose a problem again and have like a lot of the glitches that they saw on this last
temperature on the thrusters.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guess what I read anyway was they're redesigning the material for the seals on the valves, since valves seem to be a problem for them, even though they've been building them for space for 60 years.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens. There was a good story on Ars Technica, not by Eric Berger, by another writer, about we're counting down to the end of the space station. So
is it
really,
still worth it? Yeah.
How many flights can they get done in time?
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out This Week in Space. You can find us on your favorite podcast app or see the link in the description below. See you there.